Howdy folks, I'm Rebecca Jolly, the Jolly Alchemist, here today with a neutrino forecast for, Friday, the 12th of September, 2025. Today we are looking at the last bit of the third quarter right angle cross of rulership. So in the third quarter we're dealing with people issues, relationship issues, family issues, excuse me, and what it means to be in a position of rulership. Now, rulership is something that's really more chosen by the person than, like, say, this leadership channel where we were talking about leadership as it's democratically authorized or authorized by other people. These are people that feel the need inside of themselves to rule, and of course that's because this 45th gate right here that I have in blue is this gate of the king or queen, and it's very much an energy of ruling and being in charge. So that's how we get this whole energy of that going on, even though it's the 47th gate we're focusing on here, this gate of oppression, mental oppression, and dealing with that burden and trying to make sense of what it is to be human. So we're looking at 47, line 3. And also we're going to look at line 4 today because of a phenomenon that's, I don't fully understand it, but it seems to work, so I'm provisionally going with it until I know something better. But that is that a solar day does not actually take a whole day. So occasionally there's this jump and you have to deal with it of there being the day not filling a day, kind of. And the last time I just kind of like skipped over it, and I think maybe I did it a little bit too early, and perhaps I waited a little too late on this one. It's hard to tell. I'm experimenting with that. But in order to catch up, we've got to cover 2 lines today, and I tried to figure, like, what's the best way to do it? What's the best day, the best way? I think this is it. So we're going to cover the end of that right angle cross today, and then we'll leave the juxtaposition and the 5th line for tomorrow, even though the juxtaposition is technically the very end of the 4th line theme. So that's the way I'm going to break it. So we're looking at 3 and 4 today, so it's a little complicated. I'll try to talk quickly. All right, so 37, line 3 is self-oppression to burden oneself. This is a 3rd line theme, so of course we have that back and forth here and there, bonds made and broken kind of energy. Ross says that these people are historians because they're looking at the past and they're wanting to interpret it for others to say, look, I've been mentally oppressed by all this information, all this confusion, and here's what I made out of it. Here's where I came to it. Line 4, 47, line 4 is integrity, despite external oppression. So in moving to a 4th line theme, what we have is that the energy is trying to reach out to the other. It's wanting to contact the other, connect to the other, be influential on the other, or be influenced by the other. And so he's talking about these are people a lot who can become a little bit burned out. In fact, I think Ra had a different name for the 47-4. Let me check that here while I'm talking. He mentioned that these are people who are always looking to someone else to relieve them of that mental oppression. And in that, sometimes they have a problem because they get too dependent on outside forces to help them understand all that pressure, the trying to understand things, and it can't be understood. Sometimes sense gets made out of it, but then something else will happen, and then you have to make sense of it all over again. So it's not really the same thing. That's what I thought. Ra called this 4th line repression. he said it's just very difficult. These fourth line beings, they tend to take that oppression personally. And so then it's a very difficult energy for them to hold and carry. The Earth is, of course, in 22, so we'll be looking at 3 and 4. 3 is 64 keys, calls it enchantment, but Ra calls it the enchanter. Enchanting openness through perfected grace or perfected openness. This is an individual kind of energy. This is 22. This is in an individual channel, but it is also a social channel at the same time. So this is the individual being social and trying really to have a mutative effect on the collective, on the whole, by expressing gracefully what their moods are. So he said that there's a ton of romantic songs and poems, odes written to these kinds of people because they have this really overwhelming sense of perfected grace. And perfected grace tends to be, as far as I can tell, about attention. Really being able to give your attention to the other person and really try to see them almost in a coordinator type way. So then we move to line 4 of that, which is sensitivity, sensitive openness. Again, that fourth line is really wanting to connect with the other because it's seeing it for the first time. Openness without formality. So it's being willing to break societal norms in order to be open. So a willingness to be informal rather than keeping sort of social forms and norms. Ross said that fixedness of the fourth line in this case is something like about how do I modify my behavior in order to be more appealing and in order to make that connection with the person on the other end of that energy. So that's that. Very interesting energy. And the song that I chose to represent these whole themes of mental oppression and attention and enchanting openness is Overkill by the Blanks. And what an interesting song that is. This is sort of an a cappella, fuzzy here and there. It's confusing, but I'm making sense of it kind of a thing. A very good song for today. The moon starts off in 23.3. 23 is the gate of explanation, individual explanation here coming out of the throat. And it says individuality, individual expression that can be stimulating. Of course, it can also be off-putting, as I know very well, carrying this energy as I do. It all depends on whether or not we've been invited to speak, is what it turns out that's about. And then when the moon is done with 23, it will move to gate 8. This is the gate of creative contributions here, heading towards the G center. And then 20, which will be a repeat of energy we're already feeling from, where is that, Uranus there. So we'll be having a doubling up of that energy for a little while, and then it will go into 16 just a bit. 16 is skills here in this channel of mastery. So our Mercury energy starts off at 47.2 with a down arrow. Of course, we're looking at this this whole subject of mental oppression and that sort of thing all at the same time there. Of course, the 47.2 now has a down arrow on it, so I need to look at this real quick and see what is going on with that, because it looks like I didn't actually write the down arrow. Oh, that's because we've been looking at the whole thing already and looking at that down arrow. Okay, well, let me look that up while I'm talking here, because I can definitely say more about that since, oh, here it is. Ambition. The indecisiveness to use personal intelligence and the inability to sense when activity could lead out of oppression. Which activity could lead out of oppression? So, of course, it's again more of the suppressive energy, and we're going through these gates, it seems like faster and faster here in Mercury as Mercury overtakes the sun. And then, of course, where is it starting? Not tomorrow, but Sunday, it will actually overtake the Earth, and we'll start to see Mercury foreshadowing what the Earth will bring us. But until then, it's all in the same kind of thing. You're not really going to feel the difference. It's all mental oppression and trying to make sense of confusion. So that's what that is. It's still carrying that energy, but within a bit of a flavor of, I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know which activity is going to break it. Okay, Venus is in 4 line 3 today and moving into 4. So line 3 is irresponsibility, to content oneself with superficial formulas. Now, gate 4 is this gate here of trying to find a formula to answer the skeptical thought that has come into your head. This does have an up arrow, which is the potential to enjoy formulas with no regard for practical applications. Of course, that 4th gate doesn't need to have a practical application, because the practical application won't come until that energy runs through the opinion and the confirmation with attention to detail there, that can then be spoken out and hopefully be stimulating to the other. And of course, then it's got to go through the whole entire rest of the logical process, including bashing it out over and over again and finding out what's wrong with it here in this 1858. So it's really the very, very beginning of the logical process there. And so it doesn't need to have the end answers yet. It just needs to be willing to make a fool of itself in order to try to start and figure it out. All right, for 4, which is also happening, is role-playing, imaginative role-play, elevated to an art form. So basically what that's talking about is when an idea comes to your head and you're skeptical of it, then you say, I wonder if I did this, or if I was this way, would it do this, and da-da-da-da. So it's playing with it and putting yourself into the actual playing with it. Mars moves to, it starts at 32.3, but we looked at that yesterday from the start of the energy, and that was indecision in times of transition. 32 is this gate of continuity here on the other side of ambition, being able to stay stable through changes, which leads to success. So then it moves to 32.4, which is right is might, to maintain one's principles in times of change, which is really what we're getting to. It's being able to stay stable in times of change, which is certainly an energy that we're needing in the world right now and moving forward. So I think we'll definitely be seeing more of this 32 energy going forward. All right. The global energies are stable, thank goodness, because there's so much else going on. It's overloading my mind almost. I'm getting ready here to do the MeWe Festival in Portland this weekend. So the transits are moving ahead so that I can have my focus entirely on that. But that means a ton of research beforehand to get the transits all stacked up and ready and all that. So it's just a ton of information moving through my mind right now. I hope I'm not increasing your confusion by my explanations. There are no internal connections made by the transit today, so it's just individual gate activations. Of course, we always have to look at how those activations affect us personally, and at some point here in the future I will be making some videos so that people can understand that transit information better and how it impacts their charts personally. Like, say, for example, for me, this 20th gate that we have in Uranus completes the integration circuit and really helps me in my process of self actualization, what's the word, like rising up, empowerment. There it is, self-empowerment. So That's one of those things that we really have to look for when we're looking at how the transit affects us personally is it making one of those connections uh, that's connecting something for us and giving us an energy that we are already dealing with and longing with. And there is definitely something in me that's very sensitive to that 20 energy. I told the story about how I can oftentimes sense that 20th gate energy entering a room with me. I can go, "Arrrr, I feel the 20. Who's got it?" Right there. And it was at the MeWe Festival that I first recognized that ability when I was in a class and I said to my partner, "I think that woman right there has a 20." And he said, "Don't bother that woman." And later on, that woman came to talk to me, so I was able to say, "Can I look at your chart for just a second and see if you have that 20?" And she did have that 20. So I was like, okay, I get it. As a single definition, I don't often feel that separation that the split definitions have, that kind of a hole, that's something that's missing, except I definitely feel it here in this 20 because I have 3 out of the 4 of the integration circuit. So there's a lot of my life that's about how can I empower myself? How can I evolve? How can I rise up? It's a never-ending pressure, which results in me being here today. So there we go. It's not always a bad thing. No judgment. All right. Moving on, there's so much more to say for tomorrow where we will get into that juxtaposition cross. But until then, y'all take care of yourselves. I sure am trying to take care of me. Ciao.